All right, we haven't done one of these in a while, so I guess we'll go and see whether this is going to work out. I'm a little bit out of practice here on what to go and do. Ended up using my computer in order to do Zoom meetings for a while, so my webcam, I think I put back where I used to have it that you guys liked the way it was. So hopefully you can see me and hopefully the sound comes across fine. I think I've got it where it used to be. But I can see you guys are starting to get into the chat. Like I said, we haven't done one of these in a while. I've been waiting for lawn tractor season to actually finally kick in and before doing one of these. Not to mention, I had a friend of mine tell me that if he bought me a case of my favorite ginger ale, that I was required to go and do a live stream. So he bought me an entire ginormous case. It's the ginger ale with lemonade and the ginger ale with limeade in it, which is like my favorite thing. Yeah, Jesse says it's gross, but it's my ginger ale crack. I love it. As I managed to go and shoot myself with ginger ale. Um so for those of you who are new onto this or returning or whatever, basically what I usually do is I try to go down through the chat and answer questions and stuff like that. And I try to get to everybody, but usually we get overwhelmed towards the end of stuff. So usually I do about an hour and a half or so on the live, depending on questions and when my voice gives out. To be quite honest, I posted up that I was going to do a live and then immediately ended up having a allergic reaction to something this morning, and my voice sounded horrible and I almost decided to delete the live. I took a Benadryl. About an hour later my voice cleared up, so we're here, we're going to run this thing. You're welcome. Thank Jessie because she suggested Benadryl. So we're going to run this thing and see if my voice holds up. So we got CS Mud Mowers from Hell in the house. That dude does some really cool stuff if you're into like the wheel horses and some of the Craftsmans. If you like the extended frame mud mower builds and stuff like that, check out CS. He does some really cool stuff. Craftsman Crusher, always kicking around. And a few other people. Nerf Guns All Out. Now there's a nice name. I like that. Nerf gun modding used to be a really major thing. I don't know whether it is anymore. I got out of that back in college, but back when I was in college, there was a giant crowd of Nerf gun modders and stuff. Is that still a thing? Is Nerf gun modification and wars in like college dorms and stuff still a thing? Let's see. Robert says, hello, young man and your family. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. Today was a rainy day, so I didn't work outside. I have been chiseling away at the garage and cleaning up on the back area and stuff like that. I'm going to make sure to go and get a subscriber update done soon, so we can do a walk around on what's going on with the property and what's been happening and stuff like that. I've gotten a bunch done. It's that old proverb of how do you go and eat a whale one bite at a time. I mean, it's not that I can't get it done. I got to do a little bit here, a little bit there. And I'm making up for lost time. Unfortunately, I've got 10 years worth of being an alcoholic that I'm digging out from under, but I'm making it. I can see the top of my back bench now that I do all the carburetor rebuilds, probably for about the first time in about like 7, 8 years now. I don't think I've been able to clearly see the top of that bench since the last time that I rebuilt it. So we're definitely getting there and doing good as far as making progress. A lot of you have reached out about the 4-post lift and stuff like that. that survived winter perfectly fine. A lot of you reached out and said to check the cylinder underneath and everything else, make sure it didn't flash rust. And that was a really good train of thought to go and have. So I did. I got underneath. I made sure the cylinder was redone and re-greased and everything. Sprayed it all down. I did all of the cabling with marine grade grease made for wheel bearings for trailers that go underwater, and redid the pulley shaft grease and everything on it this spring. So, yes, it is not supposed to be outside, and yes, I probably ended up having to do maintenance that most other people would not end up having to do, but it survived the winter perfectly fine. And I ended up using it like 4 different times during this winter. So it is what it is. I really don't think that it did it any harm being outside. All right, let's see. Good days to everybody from Junkyard Dog. Hope everyone had a great day. Let's see. What tire should I put on my Craftsman? I want something cheap but good in the snow. The real reality with snow is that snow changes critically all the time. What's good in one type of snow is thoroughly a waste of time in other types of snow. Chains are the big thing. If you get yourself a universal tread to run that is patterned in such a way that you can still run chains, that's the big thing in dealing with snow. It doesn't matter how good your rubber is. If you can't run a chain on that tire, it's a waste of time the moment there is ice underneath anything. The other thing that I have really debated getting into is if you run a lug that is at least a 1-inch lug, you can put ATV ice racing screws into a 1-inch lug without ever going all the way through the tire, because they're about 3/4 of an inch long, which means that you can drive it all the way into that lug and be able to get grip. So what I'm debating is getting some of those really cheap Sun-F tires for the ice racer. And if you've been kicking around the mud mower world, you know exactly what I mean. The Sun-F tire that's got the 4-dot lug pattern that has been showing up everywhere for cheap. Those are what I'm planning on sticking on the ice racer and studding those. And I'm debating picking up a set of those. Those are the tires that are on John's gas-powered Power Wheel. If you've seen his gas-powered Power Wheel, those Sun-F tires, those are the ones I'm talking about. But yeah, that's what I would look into, is ATV studding, and make sure that you've got a tire that's got a 1-inch lug. All right, let me see here. What else we got going on? And this is the problem. The problem is you guys ask me a question, I get off on a tangent, and then I get behind on what you guys are asking. Let's see. Hey, Dylan, can you please reply back to me on your biggest fan, blah, 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 blah. Guys, I am nothing special. The only thing that makes me a YouTuber is that I can use a camera and I can edit it on software, which is literally anything any of you can do. You know, YouTube is so simple in today's world. All you need is a halfway decent camera on your phone. I mean, literally almost probably, I'm going to bet probably 80 out of 100 videos, I do all of the editing on my phone. It is very rare that I edit anything on my computer now. Power Director for the Android phones has become so capable that it is worthless to go and use your computer sometimes. I've actually found that I can edit better on Power Director using my cell phone than I can doing a lot of different things using Sony Vegas Pro and some other software that I've used in the past. So that's it. That's the only difference between me and you, is that I run a camera, and that makes everything that I do take 5 million times longer than it really should. If you want to get into doing what I do with a camera, making YouTube videos and stuff, one of the biggest things you got to go and get used to is that 15 minutes, a 15-minute job turns into a 2-hour process of filming, of redoing, re-speaking, re-saying, and then the video editing process, then the uploading, and then filling out all the information. So for every 15 minutes that job is, add 2 hours, and that's the life of a YouTuber. CS. So what are your plans to make the new drag mower go faster, the diesel? Okay. So are you planning on doing any more drags this summer? Okay, so I'll answer you and Polar Bear Ed. By the way, Polar Bear Ed is really cool people. Check him out also. Polar Bear, I love the little cooking things that you throw in. You know, the crock pot stuff. I'm a big crock pot fan. Keep that up, dude. Those are awesome. So as far as the diesel is concerned, the first thing about the diesel is it is not running right. Anybody who has ever been around a diesel knows that you should have black smoke coming out of it when you grunt it down, and you should not have white smoke coming out of that diesel. So the problem with the diesel right now, for it to have white smoke coming out, is either the injectors are really screwed up. The injector could be sticking open. It could be that its pressure actuation is wrong. And it also could be that the timing on the timing on the injector pump itself is way off. So those diesels, when they're made, they're actually, when you receive one of those, a lot of times they will actually have diesel already in the injection line. And the reason being is because they are shim tuned at factory. And so whenever there is a series of them that comes out and the casting has a little bit of an imperfection or something like that, they will end up shim tuning the first like 3 or 4 of those motors that come through on that series, so that they know how many shims to put in for that batch of motors that came in with that casting. And mine is actually seems to be missing shims. It actually doesn't seem to have any shims in it when it should at least have 1 or 2. So we're going to be doing a follow-up on the diesel. We're going to be trying to get it so it's running correctly. The second part of that is that when I was hitting that launch, I was literally just clutch dumping that thing for all it was worth in 3rd gear high, which means that I never bogged it. I never even remotely caused that thing to bog at all, clutch dumping it. I nailed it 12 times in a row, and what gave out was my belt. It wasn't the diesel. It wasn't the transmission. My belt was going, I was going over and over and over and over again, and I did 7 runs in a row against other people or just stress test runs. And it was one right after another. There was no break. There was no nothing. It was down, full throttle back, down, full throttle back 7 times. And I roasted the belt off on the last one. There should be, speaking of the races, if you are in Maine, if you're somebody coming back in order to watch this video, in order to see this later, and you are in Maine and you want to meet me, you want to come to the races, there is a link in the description below for the first race of the season. The reason why I'm pointing this race out is because it will be at a fairgrounds that they are renting out. And that fairgrounds is going to have tons of room. We're the only people renting it out that day. It is literally just for us. It's a $5 person entrance fee in order to come in and watch. It'll be $10 to race per per category. So if you want to come in and you want to bring your mud mower and just for the giggles of it, race it in the small mod class because you're 500 cc's or less, or you want to race it in big mod just for the giggles of it, they are more than welcoming you guys to come with mud mowers. If we can get a group of dedicated ATV styled mud mowers, they're even willing to do a mud mower drag off. You know, if you come in with a fully equipped mud mower that obviously is weighted down with a winch and stuff like that, and there's at least four to six of you guys at least, they've already stated they'll do a group run of just mud mowers in order to see who's got the fastest mud mower. So down in the description, there is a link. The first link is the event in order to be able to join it on Facebook, in order to be able to get updates if anything changes. The second link is to Google Maps in order to go and show you the exact place it's going to be at. So feel free to go take a look. If you want to come and you want to say hi to me and watch the races and come talk or whatever, I'll be there. You're more than welcome to go and show up. I'm going to end up posting up a video also talking about this in order to go and throw it up on the Redneck Computer Geek page and invite everybody to come show up. Maybe we can go and get a meet going. Maybe we can get half of the mud mower community of Maine to go and show up. One side note, if you want to race, you got to be 18 years or older. Because of insurance clause, they cannot go below 18. It's got nothing to do with, you know, not wanting kids there, not wanting kids racing. It's got to do with the way the insurance is written for what we're doing. We cannot go below the age of 18. So there you go. There is going to be at least 6 different races, I believe, potentially more. And so if you're in the area, make sure to join the group and hopefully you'll be able to make it. Let's see. Any near future upgrades for Mud Wizard? As far as Mud Wizard goes, Mud Wizard is pretty well dialed in for what I want Mud Wizard to do. Now, I do potentially have a mud mower build planned for, excuse me. Boy, it's got burps in it as usual. So I do potentially have a mud mower build planned for after the first major cutting season here in Maine. So basically the way that Maine usually goes with selling lawn tractors is from about now till about probably about the end of July is go for fixing, selling, flipping lawn tractors most of the time. COVID has utterly, totally screwed that to bejesus and back again. But that's another whole kettle of fish. Basically, the end of July is when we start into our drought season here in Maine. And so there's usually one cutting towards January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So usually about the second week of August will be the last cutting, and there will usually be about a 1 month drought after that. And that's usually when I do some sort of like follow-up type builds and stuff like that, or finishing off builds in order to be able to test and tune them for the end of summer and things like that. So I do have a build. It's something to do with me and John in the mud mower stuff, because him riding on the back the way that he does, I can only put that into third gear before the front starts to lift. I can take off in first and second, but if I take off in third, the whole front lifts and it rides lifting the front at full throttle. So I've got to come up with something before John has his next major growth spurt. So as far as Mud Wizard goes, I'm going to leave it alone, but there will be another build coming up. Mr. Rallyman, you've got you've a bench like mine, but like yourself can put my hand to whatever I need. Oh, gee whiz. I cleaned off, I do all my carburetor rebuilds on that bench. I cleaned off 27 carburetors off that bench while I was cleaning it today. It was well overdue for getting cleaned. 27 different carburetors, the carcasses of 4 different starters. I discovered that I apparently have 7 different grinders. That I thought I only had like 4 or 5. Apparently I have 7 grinders. Um, it's amazing what you find. Once I got the bench cleaned off, I went redneck copper mining. If you don't know what redneck copper mining is, basically right now the copper price in the state of Maine is rising. I don't know whether it is across the rest of the country, but here in the state of Maine, for the first time ever in probably about 6 years or so, it's above $3 a pound. So I went redneck copper mining, which is where you go through your garage and you find every electric device that you keep claiming you're going to supposedly fix, and you either fix it right then or you slice it apart for all the copper that's in it. And so I ended up ripping apart 3 different vacuum cleaners today. I tore down a 5 horsepower 220 volt motor that I blew up. I tore down 2 dryer motors that I was saving. And by the time I was done, I ended up with 10 pounds of copper today. So yeah, redneck copper mining went pretty good today. And my garage got more clean. And all of the really solid metal cores and everything all got thrown off into the metal pile in order to be able to haul in, which finally the scrap yard is open. So I can haul in some scrap metal pretty soon. So hopefully the price will keep going up. If the price keeps going up, that would be really good, because the price has been so low, it literally was going to cost me more in gas to drive to the nearest scrap yard and come back than I was going to make by hauling scrap. It's been stupid ludicrously low for quite a while now. Hey, honey. Oh, let's see. Rallyman's out to get me in trouble. Tell us about your speed wobble in the last video so I can see the smirk on your face. Oh, I thought for sure. I really did. I thought for sure that I was going over like that. That was one flinch away from Jesse having one of those never let you live it down stories right there. We're going to lower the whole seat. We're going to extend the front end. We're going to camber the front end, caster, camber. I never get that right. Anyways, we're going to kick the front end out so that it's like the diesel eater.
Don't say too much.
And then go from there. So we're going to see what we can do as far as getting that drag race ready. That thing still has all of its deck lift gear. It still has it has a cast iron front end in it that has got to go away. That cast iron front end by itself, just deleting that and putting in a standard stamp front end is going to drop 20 pounds. It's got the under seat gas tank, so I've got to figure out some sort of gas tank to put in the front. I already sorted out a 17 horsepower motor to put into it, which will put it in the small mod class. Small mod is 500 cc and less. So it'll be racing against the diesel eater in small mod. Now I just got to find a jockey in order to go and ride on the horse. But, you know, I'm not going to give up on riding on Diesel Eater. That thing is, I tell you what, when my camera on the phone does not do the exhaust sound on that thing justice by any means. I'm going to get out my GoPro in order to take some footage on that. And once I get it tuned in more, because the GoPro really takes far better microphone quality stuff as far as exhaust is concerned. That is one problem as far as being a gearhead YouTuber running off of a cell phone, is that the newer cell phones have they have noise cancellation in them. And there is no setting that I can find anywhere to shut it off on my Samsung. So it brings the volumes up and down to within a certain parameter. And the GoPro doesn't do that. And so that is one thing to note if you're going to be doing what I do. If you're going to be running open headers and you want to hear how cool it sounds and stuff, you need to have an independent camera that doesn't have the noise cancellation function integrated. So, you know, just, yeah, I got off on another tangent. Sorry, guys. All right, let's see. Next question. Let's see. Craftsman Crushers. I run Sun F tires on the front mower. And yeah, Jessie quoted in that she's glad I didn't crash. She's really just making sure I don't break another finger. I still can't straighten that thing. It never did heal correctly from that crash with Mud Wizard there. And yeah, thanks, Rally Man. Hype her up, saying I wasn't very far from it. You're right. I really wasn't. I caught myself though. Let's see. Okay, so Craftsman Crusher passing on some information. Rally Man, but when it goes wrong, you don't know to laugh or cry when you're the driver, even when it's yeah, exactly. I agree. Let's see. Polar Bear Ed says if he had one of his tractors together, he'd be considering coming up. I tell you what, man, the drag racing is. I used to drag race cars when I was younger, and I'll tell you what, without a doubt, drag racing the lawn tractors is funner than drag racing street cars. Drag racing street cars and stuff like that, it's fun. You know, it gets your adrenaline up a little bit, but that open header sound and the idea that you're taking something that was designed to do 7 miles per hour and doing 35 miles per hour plus on it, that is a whole different ball game worth of insanity fun once you get it up there. And those guys in Outlaw, they're pushing clear into like 45 miles an hour without even flinching at all. I would bet the slowest guy doing Outlaw is 45 miles an hour. Let's see. Are you going to build a 5-bolt mutter? Are you going to build a 5-bolt mutter? Joe, I don't get your question. Do you mean as in build a mutter that uses a Roper 633? If that's the question, I really haven't decided on that. Now, if you want to see somebody who builds those, check out another YouTuber called Creepy Crawler. Creepy Crawler does a bunch of stuff dealing with those. CS Customs does a bunch of those. And I know I'm missing somebody. There's another YouTuber that does a bunch of those that I can't think of what his name is. It'll come to me. I'll think of it. Or hopefully, maybe you guys. There we go. Name off YouTubers who have built Craftsman's or Sears Suburbans or wheel horses or things like that with a Roper 633. And that way you guys can look up that kind of information. I don't plan to go and deal with building a mudder that runs a 633. And the reason being is because we have sinkhole mud here. And it is far better off for me to run a really wide float tire and be able to go and spin it than it is for me to run something that chugs. And that's the reason why it is I don't have an interest in building one of those machines. Our mud holes, when they are actually mud holes, they're not bottomless, but if you can see a foot of water, there's at least 2 feet worth of mud underneath it in most places, which means that if you don't manage to go and float your tire on top of that mud and you start digging down in, that's 3 feet worth of stuck underwater, no ifs, ands, or buts, you're done. And I mean, Mud Wizard is pretty well built, but even Mud Wizard only will ford about 26 inches worth of water. And then at that point, I have to be in first gear and making sure not to create waves that will get up in and kill an ignition coil. So that's the thing about it, is big gaumy machines like that they're great for pulling. They're great for hauling logs. They're great for tugging on trucks to get them out and stuff like that. But mud hole wise up here, they're a bad idea. Just the way that I end up dealing with it. Let's see. Oh, okay. So the answer is it's caster that I need to add to my wheels in the front. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. So for you guys, I want to go and make a shout out to, well, he's not a YouTuber, but he's here tonight, and I want to make a shout out. I ended up stating straight outright that I would sell those Kohlers for $50 a piece, and Travis here showed up and bought them for $50 a piece. When I talk about stuff, I mean it. I mean, if I say I'm going to sell something for $500, it's because I've been doing this long enough. I know what it's worth in my market, what it is worth here, and it is what I sell it for. Travis got a hold of me after posting that video. He was very polite, very down to earth, very cool dude to talk to. And as he says, he can attest to the diesel being way louder than it sounds on film. He was here. He's actually working on a machine that has a similar drivetrain of some sort. I didn't quite catch what exactly machine he was working on, but he's working on a similar machine. Asked me if I would fire up the diesel for him to be able to go and see, and so I did. Actually, he technically didn't ask me to fire it up. I fired it up anyway because it's a diesel. Like, I get it now. I get why people like love to smell that smoke and everything. I've never been a diesel fan. I've never been into the idea. That thing, on the other hand, I totally get it now. So yeah, and that's the other thing. If you guys want to show up to that drag racing event and you want to shoot some footage of your own, you want to take some pictures of the Diesel Eater, you want to go and get some video footage of the races, You want to post it up for your YouTube channel and stuff like that. Do it. Show up. Post up your own videos and stuff like that. I will gladly give a shout out to somebody to go check out their video while they're filming right there, and we'll get the community growing. So yeah, feel free to show up. I mean, you guys have asked numerous times whether I can do some sort of meetup. I realize it's not a romp. I realize it's not a mud mower thing, but it's at a giant fairground and mud mowers are invited. So strap in, let's go racing. Let's see, Craftsman Crusher, you should get a 820. Buy the ESC locking hubs, run a solid 1-inch axle, blah, 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 and put it into Mud Wizard and send it. To be quite honest, if you spend a season with those drag race guys, you would realize really, really, really quick that those 820s are not all they're cracked up to be. Multiple drag racers that are in the top 5 in that group run Spicer transmissions. They run 4360 Spicer transmissions, and they beat out the guys in 820s on a regular basis, with the exception of the top runner and outlaw. The top runner and outlaw runs an 820, but he has his rig dialed perfect. There's no doing any better than what he does. So as far as those 820s go and stuff like that, I've been around this game long enough. I have seen just as many 820s blow up at $350 a piece as I have seen MSTs blow up. And just so you know, 820s are notorious for blowing up differentials just attempting to mow grass. And if it blows up just attempting to mow grass, that's not in its favor. I've never heard of an MST blowing up attempting to mow grass. Now, Spicer 36s, oh yeah, they will blow up just trying to mow grass. But a Spicer 36 is based off of a Peerless 930. And you guys have seen the videos of me pulling home those machines, and those are snapped in half just trying to cut grass. I'll run an MST all day long versus an 820 and have no issue with it. Because the thing is, I can replace that MST any weekend for $100 or less. That 820, on the other hand, at $350 minimum a pop, no thank you. If I'm going to blow something up, it might as well be something I can rebuild in an afternoon and throw back in. Let's see.
It's really cold out.
The temperature drop outside?
Oh,
Yeah, temperature plummeted outside, unfortunately. Let's see here. Whoa, you guys blew up the comment section. Holy buggers. Let me see if I can figure this out here. What would make a 16 horsepower Briggs & Stratton shoot flames on startup? I have adjusted the valves. You've got something going on with your air-fuel ratio if you're shooting out flames. If you're shooting out flames, you're probably leaning out, would be my bet. So I would go in and I would do a carb cleaning and double check that your jet is doing what it's supposed to be doing. But the other thing is I've seen a lot of about 15 horsepower and over. If you run them straight pipe with the stock carburetor, they will shoot flames anyway because they're using that muffler as their dampener. And so the moment you straight pipe it, you almost always will run at least like about a half an inch of flame. But if you're running more than a half an inch of flame, then you've definitely got carburetor, air, fuel, mixture ratio problems. What I would probably do is I would get on that machine and I would start it up and pull your choke and see if you have to add choke in order to be able to get the flame to go away and have it run correctly. And that would tell you also that your carburetor needs to be cleaned. Polar Bear Ed. So Polar Bear Ed does pulling tractors. That's where the name definitely comes from. So he builds some beastie tractors, and I'm gonna have to pick his brain for a build I will probably do next year. I don't have the finances this year to drop anything more on the drag racing idea, but we need to get Polar Bear Ed his info and brains into the idea of building a motor that we can drop into something for drag racing. And I believe, if I remember right, he builds Kohlers. And I've seen some videos. Those are some crazy motors. But anyways, he says, yeah, they do 25 miles per hour, but they're chased by a 5,000 pound sled. And yeah, that would get me going too, dude. I mean, that's like having a semi truck right on your rear bumper. You mess up and you're squish. That would suck. Let's see. Hi, Quaid. Quaid has I probably just butchered your name. I apologize. I'm just a Mainer with a lack of a dictionary knowledge. So Quaid, I have a Craftsman and there's no safety switches. Do you think someone will still buy it? I'm going to answer this in the lawyer sense, okay? In the lawyer sense, if you go to sell that thing, you need to list very clearly the fact it has no safety switches, none will be there, all of that. Make it really clear and end it with there are no safety switches in that paragraph. And you print screen that thing and make sure you store it, because safety modifications, depending on the way your state's liability laws are, you can potentially get sued if you did not clearly state the condition of the unit. So make sure to write it in. All safety switches have been removed due to wiring problems in the past. Talk about the thing. Note it again during repair of machine. All safety switches were removed. Finalize it with, cash is king, might take trades, blah blah blah. However it is, you usually finalize your ads, and then add it in again in capital letters. All safety switches have been removed, and print screen that thing. In the state of Maine, I don't have to worry about that. In the state of Maine, the moment they leave your property, it doesn't matter. But if they were to be riding on it, on my property, with it still my mower, and they got hurt, they could potentially go and sue. So on those machines, I usually let them mow with it, but I deliberately keep it a very short amount of time. I deliberately position myself once they get done mowing a couple of swaths or something to stop them. Do you like the machine? Stuff like that, and progress the conversation. Because if they were to get hurt, well, it still technically is mine. I can get sued. So that's the issue that you need to go and look into. All right, let me see. If you like Craftsman mud mowers, check out Mudster on YouTube. I don't actually know that name. I'll have to look that up. Mudster. I will check that out when I get done with this. Does he work on Craftsman's like the AYP frames that I built Mud Wizard out of? Or are we talking Craftsman's like the GT series Craftsman's? Which one are we talking here? Because there's a big difference. Long Gone Tractor Shop. He's another cool one. I don't think he's posted any videos recently, though. Last I knew, he had kind of gotten out of it, or he was trying to sell Swamp Donkey or something like that. I don't remember whether he was trying to sell Swamp Donkey to be able to go and build another project or something like that had happened. But Sprocket's Garage, I have been bugging Doc to make some videos. Doc is really, really cool guy. He totally knows all of his stuff. He won't post a video unless he is 99.9% sure that he definitely got every single little technicality right in it. Really cool guy. If you ever need to ask a question about stuff, he's more than willing to go and talk with you about any video he's ever produced. And a lot of times he'll even talk with you about something that doesn't have a thing to do with any video he's produced. Just sending him off on a tangent about mowers, you will learn so much. He's a really cool guy. Definitely check him out. Oh, let's see. Polar Bear Ed. Okay, dinner is done. Gotta go. Thanks, Neil and everyone. Have a great night. Have fun, Polar Bear. I hope you made another video about how to cook something yummy. Let's see. Travis says when he visited me in order to go and buy the motors, it was worth every penny, including John's 5-cent tour. When Travis showed up, John took him around and walked him all around the place and ended up showing him all of the gas-powered Power Wheel, all the different projects and stuff like that. Travis was really, really cool, dude, in order to go and, walk around and give John the time of day and let him just talk and proudly show off his yard bird there and everything. So a big thank you to Travis. I appreciate people like you. It's guys like you that really motivate me to go and do what I do for, the lawn tractor community and stuff like that. Oh, let me see. Mr. Studebaker on YouTube. That is another good YouTuber. That was the weird one I was trying to think of earlier. It was Studebaker I was trying to think of. He does some really good videos, definitely worth checking out. If you do go bug him, tell him I sent you, because I always forget to give him a shout out every time I promise him I'm going to. So that's a good one, Mr. Studebaker. Baker, sorry, Beggar, not Beggar, Baker. There we go. Got tongue tied with the twisted ginger ale there. All right, so let's see. Snipeszilla. Hey, buddy, you got any pulleys for sale? Me and my daughter building out the first drag mower. I don't usually sell off stuff of that nature. If you're near me and you're working on a project or something or other, or you have any, questions or stuff like that, you're more than welcome to get a hold of me through my email, send some photos. I check the private messages on the Redneck Computer Geek Facebook page at least 3 times a day if I can. Either way, if you want to get a hold of me through either of those, you're more than welcome to. and I can try and help you on that. If you're local to me, here in Maine, I have no issue with coming over and, you know, talking the manure and giving you pointers or discussing it or things like that. So feel free to go and get back to me on things. I don't tend to sell pulleys. The cost of pulleys that you can buy on Amazon at this point it's just plummeted. I mean, 7 years ago when I first started doing this, it was not uncommon for custom like 8 and 10-inch pulleys to be like $60 to $70. And now you can build a custom pulley using Amazon ordered stuff. The one that's on Diesel Eater cost me a grand total of $31, $32, stuff like that. So, you know, custom pulleys is not a big deal anymore. And Stens, Stens, Stens now makes all kinds of different pulleys because people are building their own custom rigs again, and they have gotten into the market, including the 7/8 inch shaft stuff. So if you want to repower something using a power washer motor, Stens makes 7/8 inch pulleys. I think they make everything from 4 all the way to 8 inch now for a 7/8 pulley. So go through and look them up if you're dealing with that. Just another side note to add there. So we're 52 minutes into this thing. I just want to throw this out there because I've noticed that the group dynamic has changed and we've got about 7 or 8 new people coming in. Down in the description below, if you are somebody that lives in Maine and you want to meet me at one of the drag races, the very first drag race of the year, the information for it is in the description below. Along with the second link is a Google Map link to the location of the fairground if you are interested. So we will be showing up there with Diesel Eater. We will be trying to show up with a couple other rigs also and making it there. It's about an hour drive for me to get there. So the maximum I can bring is 3 rigs. And I'm going to try to go and have 3 running rigs to go and bring for that event. And like I said, they have announced that they will allow a Mudmower category if you guys can manage to organize like a good 4 to 6 machines at least showing up. If you guys want to go and have a pissing contest as to who's got the fastest Mudmower, they can make it happen. So feel free to go and get a hold of them. Again, got to be 18 years or older to race, unfortunately. But, you know, that's what you guys have asked for, so I'm throwing it out there. Let me see. Travis's build that he was talking to me when he showed up is a Alice Chambers to be a half-track build with a 633, which is why it is he wanted to know how I had the clutch and the Diesel Eater. That makes more sense now. I'm sorry that I forgot all that, Travis. I talk with probably at least like 10 to 15 people a day about their projects. It all kind of just meshes together over time, and I lose track of all of them. Do you have white diesel or red diesel in Maine? In Maine, kerosene is red, and our diesel is like a yellowish kind of color. It's kind of a weird, like, it's like a yellowish color, like a little bit lighter than manila envelope type color. Oh, here we go. See if that'll cut. It's like this color. It's like a yellowish greenish color for us. I don't know if that matters. I'm assuming that there's a reason you asked that. But that's what color we have up here. Hunter, is AYP now owned by Husqvarna? AYP is a rented out chassis platform similar to how MTD rents out the rights in order to go and build their F&R platforms. AYP for a while was being used by Craftsman and Airines. It is used by Husqvarna, and it's used by, I can't think of what the other common brand is, but the AYP chassis, which is the one that we all like to go and build mud mowers out of, has shifted, and there's a newer version of it that's out, which is one of the reasons why it is that I've been trying to get a hold of one of the newer 5-speed 3000 series Craftsmans, because the newer 3000 series Craftsman is a 5-speed, but it has the drop down with the independent arm steering, similar to what a Murray had back in the late 80s into early 90s, and what a lot of the conversional little MTD GT chassis have now. A lot of your entry level John Deeres now have that style of steering. The GT Murrays had that style of steering. A lot of your Scotts in the early 2000s had that style. So I'm thinking about trying to get into building a mud mower out of one of those, because there aren't too many people that have built that style. One of the few that I know of is a gentleman by the name of Stephen Getchell, and I believe he has a YouTube channel. You can take a look and see whether he does. But Stephen Getchell is about the only YouTuber I think I've seen that actually has built one of the newer twin front beam Craftsmans. And I don't know whether those are actually an AYP frame anymore. I believe that there's some variant of AYP. And the other reason why I want to get a hold of one of those is I want to see whether I can actually convert it to the AYP steering system that we all prefer. Similar to when I did Gen 1 to Gen 2 conversions, because the twin beam steering, when you slam it up against a rock and stuff like that, it tends to end up bending those, or it tends to go and pop the socket on the steering arm. And obviously at that point, you're dead in the water and having to rig something in the middle of the woods. So if you can convert it to a Gen 2 steering, that would be better in the long run. But we'll see. I got to get a hold of one to play with. Let's see here. I saw somebody, it flashed by, and I apologize if I missed it. Somebody asked about the dozer build. I actually got in parts in order to start working on the dozer build, except for the problem with the dozer build is that I need to buy a lot of steel in order to build the track. And steel, due to this whole stupid COVID thing, has gone up 130% in cost at this point. So what would have cost me like $150 in order to go and build is now most likely going to cost me like $400 to build. And I just can't stomach that for an experimental build right now. It is one thing to spend $150 on something experimental. It is another thing to dump $400. So what I think we're going to do at this point with the dozer build is we're going to essentially try to build it into a miniature zero turnish type build for a bit. We're going to get the braking system figured out. I'm going to find the biggest tires I can put on the rear of it and see if we can put a couple of casters on the front and get it to the point that we can brake steer it. Because if we can get it to the point we can brake steer it, then when metal price finally comes back down, I'll be able to afford being able to build the tracks, and we can get back on track, haha, bad pun, with doing that project. So that's where I'm at with it. I just plain can't right now stomach the $400 investment. It's YouTube doesn't like you talking about what you make on YouTube. But the wording that I'll give you that I'm allowed to say without getting in trouble is that if I invest into making a video on Redneck Computer Geek that stays generally under about the ballpark of $100 bill, I usually can make that amount of money back from that video in about, give or take, about 1 to 3 months, depending on how many views that video gets right off the bat. So to invest $100, I know that I will get my money back within about 3 months. But for me to invest $400, that's $300 over that guaranteed back 100 that I'm going to have to stomach spending, knowing I probably can't get it back. And if it's a fail, I'm guaranteed out that 300. So we're going to wait for prices to come down unless I come up with a much, much cheaper solution to it. I've had several people get a hold of me about a cheaper solution, but unfortunately that cheaper solution still requires a lot of steel to do and puts the ballpark investment at about $250, which I can almost stomach the $250, and I'm going to think on it once we prove whether we can do the braking steering. So that's where I'm at with that. I want to go and get 3 drag racers ready for the drag race that's on the 22nd. So if I can get 3 drag racers done, ready for the 22nd, plus I've got 4 lawn tractors to finish to sell, theoretically also within that time period, then I'll get back onto the dozer monkeying around and stuff. It's not that I've given up on it. It's that the investment money just isn't there with COVID going on. Let's see. Governed or ungoverned is the question. If you are doing a short run and you are just punching it for a short run and racing it out and then pulling it back, then governed is what it is. You can even do the ghetto governor delete trick that I showed over on RCG Racing with the ice racer and stuff like that. But in order to go ungoverned, you have to have the capability to actually pull that motor apart. And most people do not. They have a fear of opening up the bottom of that motor to ungovern it correctly. And so it is what it is. Is it worth it to ungovern a motor for trail riding? No. It is never going to be worth it in my mind. Is it worth it to ungovern a motor in order to go racing? Yes, but you got to have the pocketbook to support if you blow that thing to smithereens because you decide to ungovern it. I raced my entire first drag racing year without ever removing the governor. This year, I will be running at least 2 of the machines, probably with either ghetto governor deletes or with full governor deletes. But I'm also at the point now that I have extras and I can throw in another motor to get up and running if I blow that thing to smithereens. And I'm also racing about 100 feet away from where my truck is parked. I'm not in the middle of the woods 3 miles out and taking a chance of blowing that thing to smithereens and having to get somebody to haul me all the way out. So that's my 2 cents on the idea. Junkyard Dog, it doesn't do it after startup has the stock muffler. Then in that case, you probably still have something wrong with your carb. It shouldn't do it at all. It is the thing. And if it's doing it, there is something wrong with your air and fuel mixture, which means your carb jet is either gummed up, or you could have a filter that is clogged up to the point that it's leaning it out and doing it. But either way, you're dealing with a situation where something needs to be fixed. What pull starter is best for a Briggs 12 horsepower? Also, do you use pull starters? You can actually buy a Briggs branded pull starter that's rated for up to, I think it's rated for up to 18 horsepower. I did a pull start video years ago, and I ended up using that pull starter for over 5 years on that motor. And the reason the pull starter failed wasn't because the pull starter failed. It was because I hit a bump and the shroud came down and it exploded the flywheel. It exploded the flywheel blades through the top of the pull starter. So those Briggs & Stratton pull starters are more than capable of starting a 12 horsepower motor. If you want, you can send me an email and I will send you a link to what I'm talking about. But the actual Briggs & Stratton pull starters that I recommend, and I don't recommend anything else less than them, they're about $50. It's pretty hard to go and chew on, but it's full recoil and they last for years. And I mean years and years. Chris Clark asks, can you change the gear inside the Roper 633 to make it longer legged? Like leave low range alone to pull or work, then make high range go 15 to 25 miles per hour. Okay. What I will tell you from what I have done with the diesel, with Diesel Eater, if I put it in low first, I would bet at the very most, it probably at full throttle, ramming that diesel to the ceiling, it probably at most does like 3 miles per hour. So that right now is a 10-inch pulley going to like a stock 8-inch pulley. So if I can run that and still easily be able to use all three in low in order to be able to putt around the yard and stuff, because before I ever drag raced that, I ran it around the yard multiple times, up and down the driveway, probably drove my neighbors bananas and surprised I didn't get called in for the cloud of smoke that was going up and down my driveway and stuff. But I ran it through all those gears, and the 3 high with the current pulley ratio set up on it right now, I mean the three low, so you've got first low, second low, and 3 low. I would bet third low is probably about 10 miles per hour as it sits right now with the pulley ratio that's on there. So if you did a similar pulley ratio to what I have right now, the answer is it would be right where you're talking about. I would bet that my high one right now is probably about 12 miles per hour, if I had to guess. That's just me butt dynoing what it is that I think it's doing. I haven't had a chance to actually dyno and actually speed test because we can't seem to quit having rain, and there's not enough dry out in between the rainstorms for me to be able to grate down my driveway and to be able to smooth it. And so until I can actually get enough in between the rainstorm time to do that, we're not going to be able to do any speed tests at this point. But as soon as I can, I promise I will do some speed tests on the diesel, because everybody's asking, everybody wants to know the pulley ratio stuff. The problem is I'm going to change the pulley ratio hopefully before making it to the drag race on the 22nd. So I'm only going to be able to go and guess what the capability was before that, but at least we'll know what it definitely was below. Lawnmower Man wants to know if I'm near New Hampshire. No, I'm in Mid-Coast, Maine. Nowhere near New Hampshire. Anything to do with New Hampshire is like a 3-hour drive for me just to hit the border. Let me see here. Will you ever make a mud mower hydro do it like the diesel? I might, maybe. Right now, the whole hydro thing is all experimental phase and stuff right now. Like I stated before on the governor thing, it is one thing to be experimenting when you're on a drag strip and your truck is 400, and your truck is like 100 feet away. It is another thing to be experimenting 3 miles out in the woods. That's the reason why it is we're going to traumatize the builds at the drag strip, and they have agreed that they will let me run an exhibition machine at the drag races between small mod and big mod, and they're willing to let me run an exhibition race against somebody else also if somebody wants to go and run an exhibition. So if you're in my area and get into this thing and you're 18 years or older, do it. Get into it. It really didn't cost me much to build my first machine to be able to go racing. And over on RCG Racing, I showed that the entire first build was pretty much junkyard, and I still was able to go and clear into the 30s. Oh, okay. So Mr. Rallyman earlier asked me a diesel question about the color of the diesel and stuff. And yes, Mr. Rallyman, as far as our off-road diesel in the state of Maine, yes, it is tinted. It's kind of like a cranberry type color, like a cranberry juice type color. And kerosene in the state of Maine is tinted red also, but it's like blood red. So that, if that answers your question. So for you, the off-road diesel blows a little bit more smoke, which is interesting to note. I've never heard of that, but I will look into it because, diesel. Because I built the diesel because you guys fanboyed about a diesel and wanted to see it, so we did it. I tell you what, me showing up with that diesel to the test and tune for the drag racing, that was interesting to say the least. The looks that I got and the comments that I got. My favorite being the moment I crested over into the area was leave it to Neil to come up with a diesel. So the other thing about that diesel build is that motor that's in there has buku hours on it. And I mean, without question, the amount of soot that I have had to clean off of that thing, and I am still cleaning off, it had way high hours on it. So I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, the hour meter that was on that generator when I tore it apart was something close to like 1,600 or something like that. So if that thing has never been rebuilt, then it is well overdue for it. And so we'll see how long that motor holds together. And if the diesel videos get good enough views, I'll buy another diesel and I'll throw it in. We'll run a brand spanking new one in the dragster. But I've got to get it to the point there's enough viewership that it makes it worth it. Lawnmower Man, you got tracks already. Those tracks are totally just shot. Those are from the 1970s. There actually were a track kit that was sold for Honda Rebel motorcycles, and they came with a ski in order to turn them into a snowmobile for during the off season. And those tracks, they don't make them anymore. The company long since went under, and it just is what it is. And they're way too small. They're only like 3.5 feet long, and I need close to like 6 feet long. So, well, probably closer to about 4.5 to 5 feet, which is why it is I'm definitely going to have to custom build something. Lauren, I finally found something fun to put that 21 horse Briggs in. Oh, that should be good. Hopefully you'll post up some pictures. I love those 18 to 22-ish horsepower Briggs. A lot of people don't like them, but if you tune them in, take the time to watch the valves, they work great. What's up?
My camera's not in the right spot.
My camera's not in the right spot?
No.
Oh, where's it supposed to be?
It's supposed to be facing this way more.
Well, okay. You heard it here, folks. The camera technician says I totally screwed it up. I you know, I'm going to have to plead ignorance, I guess.
Chicken's in the oven.
Yay, chicken's in the oven and cooking. Let's see. Eddie says I have a 84 Cub Cadet that randomly stopped running out of nowhere. It cranks sometimes, but when I turn the key, it kicks forward a bit. I replaced the solenoid, but did nothing. 84. So if you're dealing with an 84, you're pre-overhead valve. So randomly stopped running out of nowhere. The first thing that I always check anytime it's randomly stopped running is always a coil. But the thing is you also could be running a ignition in not magneto. Oh, what in the world is it called on those Kohlers? I can't think what the term is, but the buzz box that sits on a Kohler there. You could be running one of those, and those are notorious for ending up going bad. So I would say at this point that you probably should go through and double check that you actually have spark. The other thing is for it to all of a sudden stop, a lot of times that can also be dropping a valve or something like that. So if you didn't hear a thunking noise, that's the other reason I always say check coil. The other really weird thing that I have had happen a lot with the Obama gas is having it end up sticking needles in the carburetors, and it'll all of a sudden gum them, and it'll gum them in the open position and just straight flood that motor. And once it hydrolocks that motor, until it runs out of gas vapor and everything, it's not doing anything. And yet again, the first solution to going and fixing that is take your spark plug out. So my first thing that I would do is pull that spark plug, hold it against the motor, and see if you got spark. If you don't have spark, then that would be the first place to hunt. If you crank that thing over and you can't hear a compression or something like that and you have spark, then it's inside the motor you got something going on. But that's the way I would look at it. I'm not a Kohler K-Series fan for the fact that I've seen those things hand grenade themselves so many times that I avoid them like the plague. And it's the same exact reason why I avoid 19 to 21 horsepower Briggs & Stratton singles, is because they just love to stupidly blow themselves up. Jerk of all trades, good to see you here, dude. Glad to have you. And yes, the shirt is definitely getting some mileage. I can't help it. I like the stupid thing and they're comfortable. What exactly is a smithereen anyway? Smithereen is an old fogey term for smash it to smithereens, destroy it. It's smithereen is an action. It's not a thing. Smashing it to smithereens is an action. Oh, geez. Let's see. Smithereen is tiny chunks left over after clutch dumping an F&R. Yes, smithereens is the tiny chunks that you make a transmission into when you clutch dump it. That is smithereens. All right, so Garden Tractor Guy. Okay, Garden Tractor Guy asks a very good question here, and I've got a few reasons. Maybe I missed it, but why is it you prefer not to use the Kohler Magnums? So, is a Kohler Magnum a good motor? Yes. But oftentimes I relate a Kohler Magnum to a Volkswagen Beetle motor. And the reason why I relate them to those is that, like a Volkswagen Beetle, just about everything to deal with on a Kohler Magnum means pulling the entire bloody thing apart. The way that Kohler Magnums are built, the fuel pump is hidden up inside behind the air intake. The coils tearing every stupid thing apart. A Kohler Magnum weighs, I think it's 12 pounds more than a OP Briggs of the same exact vintage. So an 18 horsepower Kohler Magnum weighs 12 pounds more than an 18 horsepower OP Briggs. The price on a Kohler Magnum carburetor is way more than the price of a Briggs & Stratton carburetor. The coil price is way more. The starter price on a Magnum is way more than a Briggs OP is. The Magnum is a great motor, but it's the classic case of a great when it runs and a hatred when it doesn't. That's my thing on the Magnums. And the problem with Magnums that I have run into quite often in what I do is that because Magnums are so expensive to fix, quite oftentimes when I end up with a Magnum, it's because somebody broke it and it ended up sitting there for years and years. And because it sat there for years, oftentimes the fuel pump is gone, which means tearing apart the entire front of the motor. Oftentimes the carburetor is totally gummed up. And so therefore you got to tear apart the whole carburetor and hope that you can manage to rebuild it. Otherwise you're out a ton of money. Most of the time the rats have gotten in, which means those expensive coils are done and you have to go and buy new ones. They just plain steamroll very, very quickly into becoming a black hole for your pocketbook. If you maintain them, you stay on them, and you make sure they stay up and running, they're great motors. That was part of the reason why it is I sold off the two that I had, because I knew that it had been running last year, which meant that both of them were going to be capable of getting running right now this year. But if I had to let them sit any further, then they would have ended up becoming those steamrolling black holes for your wallet. And that's the reason why I don't mess with them. Pretty much it. It's also the reason why I don't bother trying to go and rebuild them in order to be able to go and sell the machines that they're on, is because inevitably they like to do stupid things when you're trying to go and sell the machine that they're in. And they're one of those motors that you just have to have a loving passion for. That's the word I was looking for. Let's see here. Rally Man, thanks for the live chat. I've got to go to bed. I agree, dude. I'm going to have to go and call it good pretty soon here anyway. And I hope you have a good night and stay out of trouble. Always good to have you here with the fun commentary. Let's see. Do you know anything about running plain fuel in lawnmowers? I don't. The guys that run Outlaw in the drag racing group, a lot of them run racing gas, which is basically airplane jet fuel or whatever you want to go and call it. But those motors have like $3,000 into them. It's a waste of time to try and run anything like that in a motor that's not built for it. Just my 2 cents, and has been proven over and over and over and over again by so many other people that it's not worth even remotely elaborating on at all. It just is not worth it. Do I think that it is worth spending the money? This is one topic I will go to. Do I think it's worth spending the money to buy super gas that does not have ethanol versus 89 that does have ethanol? Do I think it's worth the extra money to do that? Yes. Without even remotely flinching, that is 100% yes. But you will not see any performance increase whatsoever. They have proven that you can, in some cases, see a difference between ethanol versus non-ethanol gasoline and stuff like that. There are multiple cases where they have proven it, but that is on like 300 plus horsepower motors. As far as you on your little putt-putt lawn tractor, running around in the woods, going drag racing, all that kind of stuff, it doesn't make any difference. You're spending the extra money in order to not have Obama gas, which is going to turn into watery sludge, whatever, in between cold snaps and stuff like that, like what's happening here in Maine right now. Every time Obama gas goes through a change of more than 15 degrees, it will start to dilute itself. No, sorry, desolate. I can't remember what the stupid chemical term is, but it will start to dilute into regular gas and the sludge that they put in. Separate. It'll start to separate. There, see? Somebody gets a crossword puzzle right today. It'll start to separate every time there is a 15-degree difference, and it will definitely start to separate at 20 degrees. And you can cold shock and heat shock Obama gasoline in a container, take it from your freezer, stuff it onto the counter, and then stick it up in the freezer, stuff it onto the counter, and do it back and forth a couple of times in a day, and it'll start the separation process.
You're gonna get a freezer in your garage if you want to do that. Just say.
So that's my 2 cents on it. Is it worth spending the money to not have Obama gas? Yes. Will it ever make any noticeable difference? Nope. Not at all. Never will, never going to, nada. If you do not have upgraded cams, you don't have upgraded valves, you don't have a shaved head, you don't have higher compression, you don't have any of that kind of stuff, never going to go and make a difference. Tons of other things you can spend money on that will make a huge difference, but that never will. Let's see. How much faith do you put in products like Seafoam? In your opinion, can these products save you from a full something? Okay, I've used Seafoam for years, but first of all, Seafoam is one of those products where somebody probably managed to go and find some old timer, learn a few tricks from them, and then marketed it and changed it just enough in order to make it some cool new product that made them money. Seafoam, for the most part, is basically just kerosene. And you can mix kerosene into your gas and spray it into stuff in order to do exactly the same thing that Seafoam does.
I added apple juice this time.
Okay.
And water and more cranberry juice.
Okay.
Hopefully it tastes better.
So you made your own cran apple?
Kind of.
Okay.
With water.
So as far as Seafoam is concerned, will it
What?
Lauren says, shake it, baby, shake it. If you're going to shake the whole place, do it on camera.
No, it's inappropriate.
It's inappropriate to shake your booty? Yeah, thanks, Lauren. You know, you totally off camera, like, messed me up now. Seafoam will knock out carbon deposits, but the problem is if you have a ton of carbon deposit and you knock out a big giant chunk of carbon deposit into that cylinder, you can end up causing stuck valves, you can cause cylinder issues, you can cause ring problems, you can cause all kinds of issues with Seafoam. So does Seafoam do what Seafoam says it will do? The answer is yes. Can you do the same exact thing with a spray bottle and some kerosene? The answer is yes. Old timers have done it for years. The military has done it ever since engines were ever used by the military. It's been protocol to be able to go and clean out engines using kerosene for many, many years in the military. So does it work? Yes. Can it blow your motor up? Oh, yeah, it definitely can. There are plenty of fail videos for Seafoam that go right along with all the videos of success. The other thing about Seafoaming an engine is that if your Briggs & Stratton singles, the Briggs & Stratton singles, like the 15, the 17, the 19, the 21 overhead valve Briggs & Stratton singles that are notorious for blowing head gaskets, if that head gasket is very close to on its way out, Seafoaming one of those motors will guarantee that head gasket goes out. I've seen a lot of those happen and heard the stories of Seafoam blowing it up. And I've even actually deliberately seafoamed Briggs and Strattons that I thought had a head gasket gone, because it will push the seafoam smoke through the head gasket failure into the crankcase and out through the PCV valve. And you will see all of the smoke going out the exhaust, but coming out of your air filter, if you have your air filter off, you will see the seafoam smoke come out through. Yet again, you can do the same damn thing with kerosene. Just put kerosene in a spray bottle, spray it into the carb, and you'll get the same smoke you get from clean out that you do with seafoam. Let me see here. I just got a brand new 22 horsepower Briggs & Stratton for my Skag Zero turn. I think I'm going to love it. Yes, you will. Briggs & Stratton, the twin cylinder V-twins with the overhead valves, they're great as long as you stay on top of making sure to watch for that starter to have issues with the valves, and you want to pay attention to make sure they're not starving out on the motors. The location of the fuel pump on those seems to kill fuel pumps rather often. I've never figured out why it kills them, but if I had to go and put a list of like my top 3 for killing fuel pumps, it would have to probably be Briggs & Stratton OPs, and then Briggs & Stratton V-twins, and then underneath that, large Briggs Kohlers. The large Briggs V-twin Kohlers love to kill fuel pumps. And it's one of my #1 go-tos the moment a Briggs Kohler starts to act stupid, is just to immediately swap that $10 pump. And, whoop, here's the kittens. The kittens are getting way bigger now. Look. Yep. And this section of Chinese food is called Luigi. So this is our Chinese Luigi. Because of Mario and the little paws, apparently. I don't know. The mustache. Oh, because the mustache and the gloves or whatever.
Leroy.
And then this is Leroy. I named Leroy. And Leroy's full name, because I'm a computer tech, and it was a really popular meme back when I was a kid. Well, back when I was a teenager going into college or whatever, was Leroy Jenkins. And so if you know that reference, you're an old person online. But Leroy Jenkins. So we got Leroy.
Luana.
And Jesse named this one Luana.
Well, Luna's too calm.
Yep. There. So we need to fatten them up to make some General Tao's chicken. And I just got told I better shut up. I'm supposed to shut up now. I'm not allowed to make Chinese food jokes anymore. Lauren wants to know if stir fry is better. She said a term that's not appropriate for live stream. We'll go with that. All right. Well, all right. We're hitting the point that supper is almost done, and ironically, Chinese chicken to go with the whole Chinese chicken, cat food, whatever type thing here. So we got one more question here, and I'll deal with this, and then we'll call it a night. And I really appreciate you guys stopping in. John would like to go and do a live stream on like a Saturday or a Sunday, so I probably will set up something. He's been doing really good. He's been working his butt off and stuff with me in the garage, and he likes to do the live streams and chat with you guys. So I'll probably try and set up a Saturday or a Sunday, depending on what ends up happening. I've got an auction that I'm going to on Saturday. So if we're not overtired from the auction, then maybe we'll do a live stream with John here on Saturday night. All right, so let's see. And Sunday's Mother's Day, so probably Saturday would be a good idea so I don't get any of you guys in trouble. Let's see, not to plague you with questions, but is there any trick to finding a good, cheap mud mower chassis? Everybody in my area wants way too much for a machine that hasn't turned to a pile of chunkies. Okay. Here's one of my number one things about the whole mud mower chassis thing, okay? First of all, no matter what, in order to build a mud mower, you are going to be putting different tires on. If you don't put different tires on in order to put mud mower tires on, it's not a mud mower. And that's one of my number one pet peeves is the people that take a deck off and say, it's a mud mower. No. No, it becomes a mud mower when you add mud tires. Yeah, Jessie needs bigger tires, she says, even though she's got bigger tires on her mud mower than I have on mine. Yeah, that's what happens when you get the girlfriend into mudding. All of a sudden, she's got to have the bigger vehicle. Yeah, she's also got the bigger truck that I need to work on once we actually have money again due to stupid cornhole. So yeah. All right. So as far as the whole chassis thing, you can build a basic off-road mud mower, ATV mower out of an MTD. I proved it multiple times last year on RCG Racing that you could easily take almost all the MTG chassis and you could hit 15 miles per hour and they were perfectly capable. And we ran the original gas-powered Power Wheel with 16-inch aggressive lawn tractor tires in mud that was 16 inches deep easy without any problem with an F&R transmission. So you can build a basic starting mud mower out of an MTD in order to be able to get yourself started. Do I recommend trying to go and get an AYP chassis or something like that? Yes, I do. But if you want to get into it and you just want to start messing around and hit about 15 miles per hour in order to be able to go have some fun, by the time you have 22-inch tires on the rear, you do a very minor pulley swap on an MTD, you can easily, without any problem, hit 15 to 16 miles per hour, which is more than fast enough to go get yourself in some trouble. The thing about building an MTD chassis, which are a dime a dozen, I literally could probably go and pick up a free MTD chassis in my area once a week all summer long if I just hunted Marketplace and hit every freebie that came up. The reason why I don't do it is because I would end up with 20 MTD chassis with no mowing decks. But can you build one into a mud mower to get started? Oh, yes, most definitely. Can you put 6-inch rim tires on the front and then get into a Craftsman chassis and swap those tires? Most definitely you can. Can you manage to go and put 8-inch rim tires on the rear of that MTD, then get into a Craftsman chassis and swap those tires onto the rim so that came on the Craftsman? Hell yeah, you can. It's more about just getting the ball rolling, getting started, and then progressing from there. The other thing that I tell everybody is target those stupid MTDs to flip. If you're in an area where the decks don't rot out on those, then you should be flipping those things for every cent that they're worth, and you should be saving that money to get the chassis that you really want. I mean, my truck that I drive right now, I bought by flipping 5 lawn tractors. I bought, registered, and rebuilt it by flipping lawn tractors. The chassis that Mud Wizard was built with, I bought and sold a MTD GT in order to pay for that entire build. The diesel eater, I bought out what I needed, and I sold out all the spare parts off of those two rigs that I put together to build the diesel eater in order to be able to pay for building the diesel eater. That's what you need to do if you're going to do this. You need to go and buy up those machines, grab those ones that just need a set of belts, do the belts, reflip it, and flip into what it is you need for the chassis that you want. I mean, the real reality is you're going to beat the snot out of that chassis. So why not get into a chassis that isn't rusted out and spend the money to reinforce that frame like I did on Mud Wizard in order to have something that you know is going to last. And that's my like motivational speech rant for tonight. Is why aren't you flipping in order to be able to get what it is you actually want? It's going to cost you to get something good. So why not learn something along the way flipping tractors that's going to help you when you do get the rig you want to build? All right. Well, at this point, I've more than cleared my usual hour and a half that I do this. I'm going to look into the idea of doing a chat so that John can be here for a chat probably Saturday night and go from there. If not, maybe next week. I'm not going to put anything in stone right now because, you know, plans change, things happen. If I go to the auction and I end up with a machine that I can go and do a tractor hunting video for you guys, and he's really into it and he wants to work on it, then we'll work on that. But otherwise than that, we'll see what we can do. So everybody have fun, enjoy yourselves, and I'll be sure to go and get some tractor hunt footage up soon. We're going to get those Cub Cadets into the mix pretty soon. I've got to survive doing the auction on Saturday, figure out exactly what I need to invest into the 3 dragsters to be ready on the 22nd. And then from there, we'll progress with the rest of what we're going to be doing on YouTube. So everybody have fun. Thank you for being here tonight and stay healthy.